So first question is, who runs the timeline? Who's the person that like runs and sets and puts the timeline together? Who's the person that's most involved, or who's the person that runs it in the beginning?
You want me to take this?
Yeah.
All right, so I think it depends on the part of the day. I think from the morning until ceremony, photographer, and after that is the DJ. I think there's two different things. The photographer needs to be way more involved, in the video team as well, has to be way more involved in the morning and beforehand, and then afterwards, I think it's the DJ and the DJ company, for sure.
Yeah, I would say so. Like a lot of the times there's times where like a couple will come to, we don't have a timeline, then we'll step in and create one. But a lot of the times it's kind of like that unspoken thing of like the photographer is going to create the timeline because there's more of like we have to get this photo.
A lot of more details.
Yeah. To where like first half of the day is more so just kind of like piggybacking a little bit.
Yeah.
But then from there on, I think like more when it gets in the hands of the DJ, that's when you get a little bit more hands-on as well with like how things are maybe like structured out a little bit. But yeah.
Awesome. I did forget one part. Please say your names,
Oh yeah.
the company you work for, and how long you've been in the industry. So.
Cool.
My name is Joey from MediaX Marketing, and I've been in the industry for 9 years now.
My name is Thomas with MediaX Marketing, and I've been in the industry for about 6.
Cool. Awesome. So, about being a cinematographer at weddings and timelines. So, what do you think? Like, what's one thing that you wish that couples knew about timelines or thought a little bit more anticipated about timelines when it comes down to weddings?
It's easy for the timeline like to get off the beaten track. Like it takes nothing for like it's like, oh, I'm just gonna go do this for 5 minutes. It's like that 5 minutes easily puts everything off for like 30 minutes. So I think like understanding of like you have this very strict timeline, and it's okay to like maybe switch things around at times. If you're more a laid back couple, you can, sometimes it's more like up to the photographer of like how rigid they want to stay onto the timeline. But I would just say like it's a timeline. Like focus for the couple, focus more so on getting to the altar with each other wherever you're getting married. And then the second half, worry about having a good time. And just, I think, prior to making sure that whoever is creating the timeline with you, that you have a full understanding of everything. So, knowing why certain things might be done in certain spots might give you a better understanding of what you can maybe move around or skip over sometimes.
100%.
Cool. So, kind of coordinating what you said with the photographer. How do you manage like the timeline with photographer, because they need their shots, but you also need your shots. So how do you pre-schedule like first the photographer gets his shots, then you get your shots, or do you just like do it at the same time? Like how does that work as to coordinating those moments?
I think a skilled videographer will know their place within the day and when to get those shots. Because a lot of the times, photographers or even the bride and groom are always on doing something, right? And they get so caught up with different shots where we have to find the optimal opportunity to also get our shots and not take away from their day and not kind of add another layer of stress to the bride and groom.
Yeah, I always look at it as like we're kind of there to, like, we have a very important job. Like, we're capturing on video everything that's happening throughout the day. So you don't want to miss, like, for us, we have to catch more organic moments. So we always have to kind of be lurking, making sure that we're getting every last thing. But yeah.
Yeah, because bride will complain like, you didn't get that one shot of me and my grandmother dancing.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
How did I know you were gonna do that?
Like, I always say, like, over communicate to a certain extent. You don't want to be in the ear of the bride and groom all day long. Like, they already have the wedding planner and the photographer and their parents and their groomsmen, and it's a lot. It is a lot, and I think sometimes it's like the beginning of the day. It's like, hey, we're here. If you don't see us sometimes, we're still here with you, and allowing that final product to sort of show for that. Because a lot of times, it's like, I didn't even know you got that, and it's like that's kind of part of the magic. It's we don't want you to really notice us that much because we want you to enjoy the day of how it's supposed to be, which is your wedding. You're here to get married and have a good time with your friends and family after.
Cool. So coordinating, I guess. I mean, I don't think ceremonies at churches happen too many times anymore.
Yeah.
But on the rare occasions it does, how do you coordinate the idea with timelines as to um, having time to capture all the shots at the house and everything
Mhm.
like that, but then making sure that you have enough time to capture the ceremony,
Yeah.
establishing shots,
For sure.
along with like just setting up what you want to shoot multicam in the ceremony. How do you coordinate with that with the bride? Like, do you specify
Yeah.
that beforehand, or
I think it really comes down to teamwork, right? Most of, if not all of our jobs are two-person jobs. If you coordinate with your second shooter, have them get there early, start setting up, and you're communicating as a team, I don't think that you should necessarily allocate more time or like bother the bride to like, hey, I have to leave early because you have your back covered by the second shooter.
I think it goes back to like the beginning of just like that clear communication of like I'll kind of go like 2 hour like periods almost of when we first get there, like I'm more so focused on making sure that they know what the next 2 hours is going to kind of entail with me being there than the next 2 hours after that, because it's easy to go there and like lay out the whole day and then it's just a bunch of information thrown. So if it's a church ceremony where we have to be at a house and then possibly another house and then the ceremony, whether one or two, just opening that like line of communication of, hey, like this is our plan, takes us this long to get there, so we're gonna try to get everything within that time, but what's of most importance is you getting married. So I think understanding of like, I think at times like you'll see like wedding videography, like they're going crazy, like they're all over the place. It's like I gotta be here and there. Every wedding's different. Every story is gonna be different of like how you tell the wedding. So I think just taking a deep breath sometimes. It's like, all right, today's not all in one place. How can we just make that easier for everybody and so nobody stresses out over it?
Awesome. So when it comes down to key moments, I think, I don't know if, you guys can explain it to me. I think one of the key moments at a wedding for you guys would be like golden hour, getting those golden hour money shots, know? So how do you coordinate, I guess, timing the golden hour to make sure you get the content that you need versus what the photographer needs? And is there any tips or tricks that you do to coordinate that, or do you just kind of follow the photographer usually?
It's tough. We live in Jersey, because so the time of day always, or like the time of golden hour changes all the time. I think it's really up to what the bride and groom values, because there's been times where the bride and groom are so exhausted by that point, they're like, you know what, let's just skip that. But if they value those cinematic shots, I think just coordinating with the maitre d', letting them know that when you're taking them out, if it's depending on when it is, and then the DJ, let them know if they're doing any formalities that we're going to take them out for this amount of time. We can hop into this afterwards, and then it's really the photographer that will initiate everything like that.
I find a lot of time you have a lot of like cocktail hours that they're extending, so they'll start doing like hour and a half time for cocktail hours, or leaving in some space in there, so you're not, a lot of times like people will do, all right, we have an hour for this, and then we're straight into the reception, and then reception doesn't start for 30 minutes later. So I think you're starting to see people are being understanding of like, all right, this is a lot, like maybe we should allocate a little bit more time to these certain things. But it kind of is like sometimes it's like golden hour is kind of luck of the draw of like the couple, the photographer,
and the weather,
and the weather really.
Yeah, like we haven't really gotten many golden hours recently. So it really depends.
Yeah.
Awesome. So are there any tools or tricks that you use to help with timelines, or anything that you guys do? Or are you kind of just Excel sheets, or just is there anything that you do to maximize your timeline efficiency?
To create them?
Yeah, create them, yeah.
If it were up to us, we kind of lay everything out into like intervals on like, I guess, Google Docs or Google Sheets. It's honestly 99% of the time it's the photographer.
And you just follow it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But there's times where like a timeline might be given over and you're on there, and then like you notice the couple like looking at it with you, and be like, oh wait, this might not actually, and it's always on us to not like we're gonna end up working with the photographer, so we want to make sure that like a good relationship is standing. But I think for us, like going through the process so many times, like a timeline that works and doesn't work. So I think just us being able to like see on the timeline of like, hey, just so you know.
Yeah. You coming? Oh, yeah. You got it? Awesome. Good seeing you, man. Stay me.
Have a good one.
Nice
Good meeting you.
Cool. I apologize about that.
No, you're good.
I forgot what we were
Yeah.
talking about.
The photographer creating
right.
the timeline.
Oh, but
Hacks.
so I think like for us, we're able to sort of look at the timeline and say like, hey, like realistically, like for the job that we need to do, this might not be enough time for the photographer to do what they do and us to do what we need to do. So just so you know, and I think it is again like you're seeing the priorities of the bride and groom of if they're like, this needs to be in the video too. Then it's like, okay, I would just recommend then extending this a little bit longer, maybe taking a little bit of time away from here. I think it is like each couple just talking to them about like what they prioritize more. Because sometimes, whoever creates a timeline will just present it to them based off of what they normally go through. Some people do their due diligence with the couple more than others. So, it's never really our job to think about, well, what did the photographer already go over? It's like, we're just going to kind of start
What
fresh.
can we do?
And, if they give us a timeline, we go over that entire thing like we're the ones that created it. Because at the end of the day, it's our timeline too. So I think it is. It's just open field of communication.
Do you have any like horror stories from like timelines and like things going horribly wrong where you had to adjust, pivot, and figure something out or anything like that? Is there anything that specifically comes into mind of like a story that you could share?
Every wedding, basically. I mean, there's been times where the groom was the DJ and his boy forgot his speaker, so then he's going all over the place. Last week, the dad forgot his jacket, and then they couldn't do a first look with the dad, which pushed everything.
Yeah, I've had weddings that were outside weddings, and a rainstorm came for the entire day. That wasn't planned, and it's on a farm, and we're looking out the window, and you see the bride outside soaked, trying to like get the tent up because like it's something like the party, the planner they got, and there's been plenty of times where you're just like, wow, this is not.
You got to roll with the punches.
Yeah, but it is that like no timeline's ever going to be exactly. I mean, there are some, but I think those moments where you find the bride and groom having a big part in like the setup and that's when it starts like taking away from the timeline because that's why you kind of have a wedding planner. There's going to be things that happen that aren't expected, but that person can.
Or have someone designated to handle those situations.
Yeah, exactly. But a lot of the times too, nowadays, like certain weddings or, the groom and bride are involved in a lot of it. And mentally, that's just going to take more energy, more time. You go deal with something you weren't expecting, and then you go in your room trying to get ready. And then the bridesmaid comes in with something else. And it's like, at times you just need to like take a deep breath, understand like the day has to come to an end at some point. And we have to get to that at some point. So let's just all work together to make sure that by the time you guys are getting married, that's all you're thinking about is just getting married.
Awesome. So we're going to finish this off with advice to couples. So between 15 to 30, 45 seconds, you can talk directly right to the camera.
Cool.
Just give them your best advice onto how to make sure you stay on time or what's the best timeline or anything that you could think about timelines that you could advise brides between 15 seconds and like 45 seconds. So
for sure.
You could think about your thoughts for a second and then just talk right to the camera. So.
Yeah, go for it.
Know what you value. Understand if you want to go to cocktail or if you want to spend taking time photos during cocktail or if you value a first look, if you want to see the person. Know what you value, know what you want. And enjoy the day. I feel like a lot of couples, go through the motions of the day, don't really get to be present. But remember, this is a day for you to celebrate and to be present.
Yeah, and I think, it all starts with like who you're choosing at first. So, make sure you put in the due diligence to not just get it out the way, but find the people that are going to help lift you up throughout the day too, the photographer, the videographer, and understand like it's your timeline. So. The day is what you make of it, and to me, I always say like the most important thing is for you to have an understanding of like this is your day first, and it's not supposed to be this long day of stress and this and that. So I think just make sure you do the due diligence prior and understand it's one step at a time to finally get to that first dance on the floor. And once you're there, everything else is alleviated, and have a drink and enjoy yourself.
Bang.
I think that's a wrap on Media X.
Let's do it.
Thank you,
Awesome.
gentlemen.
Thanks so much for having us.